Good evening. Here I am, one day before Kali Pujo, actually the evening before Kali Pujo Eve. And I'm here not with poetry, but something very interesting. An excerpt from a book called Beyond MeToo, Ushering Women's Era or Just Noise. This is a book by Tanushree Ghosh. And I mention the fact that I am reading this on Kali Pujo Eve deliberately. It's always been a question to me how, in a country where we worship the Mother Goddess, we treat our women so nonchalantly, so taking them for granted. I chose to read Tanushree's book these last few days, particularly because this book is about, as the title suggests, it is about gender issues, gender parity, women's rights. Thank you, Tanu. Tanushee's gifted me this book. It's been a very insightful read, a read which I believe is required for every thinking individual at some point of time. I'm going to read some excerpts from this book for Tanushree and as a dedication to women. May we find our rightful space. May we follow the goddess to believe that sometimes it's important to stand for your rights and to fight evil, whatever form the evil may be in, even if it is wrong prejudices for society. So, feminism, women's right movement, gender progress, whatever we want to call it, has had its patterns of development. I read from Tanushree Ghosh's book, Beyond MeToo, Ushering Women's Era or Just Noise. In India, gender has come to the limelight, mostly triggered by incidents. Such protests, which can be called movements themselves, albeit often segregated by class, caste, urban versus rural and regional goals, have caused India to have a plethora of gender laws, but societal change didn't quite come about. Societal tolerance is the biggest barrier to women's safety. Such tolerance happens because of what societies have been taught, what human behaviors define, and how gender has been manipulated in nations. Gender as a cause suffers because gender becomes a sub-identity to caste, class, political ideology, race, etc. This is unfortunate, inevitable, and universal. MeToo, with its potential to serve as a wide-reaching experience, has done the job of taking a good and visible part of the world over a hump towards a culture of belief. Its biggest potential continues to be in the creation of such things happening so much is unacceptable global conscience. In other words, a culture of seeing evil as evil is needed above and beyond anything else. Sexual harassment is not an isolated problem. If we are talking just sexual harassment, it has two primary causes. Socio-cultural conditioning that leads to viewing of women as lesser in desire versus deprivation. The two can be interconnected and interdependent, feeding on each other and manifesting in harmony. Most nations have civil or criminal provisions against sexual harassment and criminal provisions against violence against women. However, criminal proceedings are difficult to initiate and to take completion, while civil measures suffers from bias and conflict of interest. Social movements that can raise awareness will go much further than targeted actions through prosecutions, policies, or penal codes. Therefore, the best action to supplement and support is to continue spreading awareness in a targeted, collected manner. Society needs to be trained to prioritize gender. They need to know the history of women's rights to understand what unification can do and the cost of being united. They need to know why they can't take a stance of not working. In broader terms, can't have a choice of not being economically independent. This is, of course, about women not having a choice in not being economically independent. Women need to know that giving up their responsibility to work can take away the right from someone else's tomorrow. They need to be trained to not be guilted with the family first or community first arguments. Women need to know what a regression can do and that where we come from, it's not too long ago. Women need to know that the statistics, laws, and gaps. Women need to know that one false accusation can do to years of efforts by women. Women, men, societies need to know the economic benefit of having a gender equal world and the risks. Gender violence isn't too far away from gender inequality. The money saved can go to infrastructure, development, and a better world for children. Do read this book. It's available on Amazon and other bookshops as well. Tanushree Ghosh has done a marvelous job of chronicling an insightful account of the history of the gender movement in India, which is her country of birth, and the US, which is where she resides in now. And she has also gone into the analysis, an insightful analysis of what the gender movement is about and where we are now, where we are headed. And I'm sure every thinking individual would like to be inclusive and humane. This book gives a very definite understanding of the movement. Do read it. Thank you.